The book American Born Chinese is a graphic novel written by the American Chinese author Zhen Luan-Yan. The book follows three main storylines that all merge in the end to establish the characters' growths in accepting who they are. However, each storyline also talks about a specific character feeling discriminated by their looks and cultural background. The storylines in this book refer to the Chinese stereotypes and insults established in modern-day America and how it's been accepted in today's world. Today, I will be talking about one of the major characters featured in this book, the Monkey King, and how he was able to overcome his adversities as being part of a stereotype and feeling discriminated against. Happy Monkey King. In the graphic novel, the Monkey King undergoes many psychological and physical changes. When reading the graphic novel American Born Chinese, we can identify that the Monkey King is happy being around his kind and has no problem being ordinary yet still a profound creature. He emerged from a rock and was introduced as a happy character with no insecurities due to his identity. This is proven because the author drew a close-up of the Monkey King's face to make sure that the audience could identify that the Monkey King was a happy soul and was very accepting of his subjects, which we also know are monkeys. We can determine this because the Monkey King stated on page 19, "My dear subjects." The word dear is usually associated with the idea of caring about someone or something. The author could have used this to indicate that the speech was quite an emotional speech for the other monkeys as they loved their leader a great deal. Anyway, the Monkey King was already introduced into the story as quite a powerful character, mentally and physically. This could be proven as well since the Monkey King had later on mastered the four elements of the heavenly disciplines after hearing about a dinner party happening in heaven so that he could join the rest of the deities, establish his power, join them as a powerful creature, and show off what he had learned. The author portrayed the panels that included the Monkey King in a long shot angle to show that he had a lot of people supporting him and to show dominance over them, as he was usually above them in these drawings. Once the Monkey King is in the line to heaven, we can see that he's exceptionally happy that he, a Monkey King, could be considered a higher power among the gods and deities in the dinner party. The author includes two examples of hyperbole when he states on page 20, "The Monkey King waited in line for what seemed like an eternity." This is an obvious use of an exaggeration because the Monkey King couldn't have possibly waited in line for the rest of time and was just beyond excited to get to the front of the line to be accepted into the dinner party. Speaking of the front of the line, the author also said that he was beside himself in anticipation, meaning that the Monkey King was so excited that the author meant, metaphorically, he could not contain his own excitement in his own body, thus having a presence portrayed as his excitement standing right next to the Monkey King. Nonetheless, with any good story, we must have some form of conflict, which will be the next topic I discuss. The conflict of this story arises when on page 21, the Monkey King encounters his first rejection due to his looks and his metaphorical cultural background. The guard of heaven tells the Monkey King, "Yes, yes, I apologize profusely, sir, but I cannot let you in." After the Monkey King makes a mistake, thinking that the guard didn't hear the Monkey King correct his name. We can understand from the following conversation that the Monkey King shows that he is upset due to the tone of his voice and word choice. He starts out calm, with a confused but cheery look on his face, thinking that the guard simply made a mistake. But as the conversation progresses, his cheery face shifts into a frown, and he is now clearly upset at what the guard had said as he poorly responded to the guard when he refused to let him into the dinner party. The conversation goes a little something like this. Guard, you haven't any shoes. This already implies that the guard thinks that the Monkey King isn't civilized. Monkey King, but there must be some mistake. I am the sovereign ruler of the flower fruit mountain, where the flowers bloom all year round and the fruit hangs heavy with nectar. Thousands of subjects pledge loyalty to me. We can tell here that the Monkey King isn't quite angry from the tone of his voice, but rather concerned/confused. He also tries to back up the fact that he's considered stronger than the other monkeys by mentioning his subjects. Guard, good for you, sir, good for you. Now, if you'll kindly step aside. The guard here somewhat aggravates the Monkey King and changes the tone of the Monkey King's voice so he ends up being slightly more hostile with his words. Monkey King, you don't understand. The Monkey King somewhat has a realization that all of his hard work wouldn't be accounted for just because he wasn't wearing shoes, which made him look uncivilized against the gods and deities. After a little conversation with the guard says something that changes the Monkey King's view of himself, makes him question his identity, whether his value as a monkey even mattered. The guard states, Guard, look, you may be a king, you may even be a deity, but you are still a monkey, King, and is what changes his perception of himself. The author then proceeds to do a close-up shot of the Monkey King while walking away to show his vulnerability as well as to show his subtle enraged face. He ended up fighting all the gods and deities in line just to show them that he was as powerful as well as upset. The Monkey King ends up going back to his cave and is starting to perceive his tribe and origin in a bad light because on page 29, when he entered the royal chamber, the thick smell of monkey fur greeted him. He'd never noticed it before. This is important because one negative comment about the Monkey King ended up changing his opinion of himself and the tribe, which ultimately made him feel extremely insecure and embarrassed of his kind and himself. This is where the beginning of his journey with insecurity takes place. After this point, the Monkey King ends up questioning his identity and ultimately tries to take the title of something he is not, meaning the Monkey King ordered all of his tribe to start wearing shoes to try and change who they are and make them seem more civilized. The Monkey King also separated himself from his tribe for approximately 80 days in attempts to become a stronger one in the eyes of the gods. This created the illusion that the Monkey King was quite an angry soul at the time, stopping at nothing to get what he deserved, but in the process of doing so, he loses himself and becomes again quite an angry soul. Once the Monkey King emerges from his cave, he is greeted with a note ordering him to go to the Dragon King of the Western Sea for his execution. Once he is down there, he is executed. However, since the Monkey King had mastered different skills, he was able to outlive his death penalty. On the other hand, when the Dragon King had complimented him with an obvious sarcastic tone, "Nice trick for a little monkey," which the Monkey King then proceeds to say, "I am not a monkey." A close-up is then featured in the last page on page 67 to show that the Monkey King is triggered by the fact that someone's reminding him of his past self, not seeing him for what he has trained for and his new identity. The Monkey King then proceeds to beat up all the different gods and deities for them to understand how angry and enraged he was. He went by the name, the Great Sage of Equal of Heaven. This just proves he was pushing away his real self and defying anything that would come his way to try and change that. The effect that this has on the audience makes them feel upset or sorry for the king since he does not feel comfortable in his skin or himself. Realization/solution. After the Monkey King believes he had earned the respect of all the gods and deities that doubted him, he stumbled upon Zehyotza, who I will call TYT. The Monkey King believes he is just the same as the rest of the gods and deities, so he thinks he's able to defeat him. At this point, the Monkey King is overwhelmingly angry at anyone who dared to deny his power, but listens to him when he talks about the Monkey King's creation and how he was created by him. We can see this since the author made it obvious that the Monkey King was interested because earlier, towards the beginning of the story with TYT, the Monkey King went from having a scowl on his face to having a neutral look and was invested in TYT's story. However, the Monkey King's now fully developed ego got the best of him as we can see him reject TYT's story, so the author gave us a close-up of the Monkey King's face so we could analyze his facial expressions and notice that he seemed resentful toward TYT. He also had a tone of voice and choice of words that made him seem uptight and a somewhat irritable soul. This makes the reader feel like the Monkey King had no hope and was unfixable from the way he was acting. TYT ended up trapping the Monkey King underneath a mountain of rock. The Monkey King remained there for 5 years. The aim of this was to help the Monkey King realize that the only way to escape was to accept himself for who he is, and he could not run away from his real identity. This was brought to his attention by a monk who had passed by him on his way up to the mountain to deliver packages. He has a short conversation with the Monkey King, telling him that the only way he would be freed was to accept himself and to stop fooling around. The Monkey King did not take his words seriously in the beginning and decided to berate him rather than listen to what he had to say. However, after noticing the monk was in trouble by demons, the author here gives a sense of suspense to the viewer by making them think about what the Monkey King would do, whether he would accept himself to save the monk or not and let the monk die. And that he, as the Monkey King, had been there for so long. The author emphasized this after the Monkey King was free by using onomatopoeia with the word dust to signal to the viewer that the Monkey King had been there for a while. He decided that the monk was right and he had to listen to him and accept himself. He was finally free after accepting himself as a monkey and nothing more. He had found himself again. According to www.essentiallifeskills.net, to love yourself means to accept yourself as you are and to come to terms with those aspects of yourself that you cannot change. It means to have self-respect, a positive self-image, and unconditional self-acceptance. I feel that the moral lesson that we could learn from this is to accept yourself for who you are, because no matter what skills you learn or what things you're capable of, you cannot run away from your identity. You should accept yourself for who you are, even if that takes a while. Eventually, though, you will get there. Thank you for listening to my presentation.